Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm told by Christina that I am between the tea break, so I'll make sure that this is a light-hearted presentation. We have heard a lot of leaders about technology, the industrial cybersecurity, why it is important. I want to bring the perspective of why training awareness, bringing the awareness level of the actual asset users is very important. That's where we are introducing a concept called Phygital, and I'll talk more about this in my presentation. A little bit about Gramax. Gramax has been conceptualized and evolved in our parent company called GMR Group. GMR Group is one of largest airport operators in the world. We are the second largest private airport operator in the world, including New Delhi, Hyderabad, and a couple of international airports. The previous session was about the aviation. So we are the ones who manage some of the larger assets. Delhi International, Hyderabad International, more than 9 power distribution units across India. And then multiple assets which hold critical importance for not only for the nation, but if anything goes wrong with those assets, it could be a catastrophic, disastrous kind of situation. That's where we come in. So since last 3.5 years, Gramax as a service division has been incubating itself in focusing on building the industrial control security or the OT cybersecurity. A little bit about me. I was group CISO for an Indian manufacturing company focusing on manufacturing of cement, sugar, and multiple other assets, and again, OT specific work. I'm ex-Big Four. I worked with Ernst & Young and PricewaterhouseCoopers, focusing on the OT transformation, especially when the organizations who have been largely investing in the IT and core digital transformation, the OT we have started talking about in last half a decade or maybe 7 to 8 years. Now we all understand that essentially when we talk about these demographies, the assets, they are large physical spaces. The previous session was talking about airlines, but then look at the airports. They are huge physical spaces with physical equipments, large physical equipments. And if anything goes wrong with those equipments, there could be physical consequences. And that is what we have seen in some of the airports globally, the other side of the world, which is happening via supply chain. I'll touch upon that as well. And of course, it's an impact on the national security. In the previous discussion and in a couple of other discussions, we also spoke about the supply chain. Look at the supply chain of the world. We are again talking about assets like vessels. 80% of the global trade happens via sea, while the airlines and the air cargo system is fastly catching up, but then 80% is still dependent on vessels. What are these vessels? They are essentially a factory running in the sea. Again, if in case something goes wrong with the systems, it could be safety issues, there could be economical and financial and operational consequences. We have seen a ship stuck in the Panama Canal. It was a consequence not only in that canal, but also a consequence on the global trade. Very important aspect, these physical assets are built for large or long life cycles. So something which is built for 15 to 20 years, how do we start talking about protecting them with the latest technology? So those are the perspectives which we have to talk about. Legacy, it's a known issue. While we are talking about the new age cybersecurity tools and tactics and technologies, how do we bridge that gap between the legacy? It is not only a problem within India or South Asia, but I think this is a problem with a global perspective. Some of these assets are largely dependent on the core industrial control equipments. Digital is minimal. The management is done by people from core engineering and instrumentation side. There are no strategy, there is no thought about cybersecurity or secure by design. Those are like afterthoughts. And then in IT field, we have staging and testing environments. We can always test, but here it is not possible. So the perspective is, with these kind of demographies, The risks are real, of course. People have been thinking that there are no cybersecurity measures, they are not required. There is a misconception, air gap is a misconception, we all know that now. And then again, the things boil down on the user side that essentially budget issues and everything. As cybersecurity experts, as cybersecurity professional, we always keep hearing about whether the budgets are necessary for the industrial control security or not. How would we be testing all these capabilities and so on and so forth? Here, I want to bring the perspective of three sides. One is the IT. We see the OT cybersecurity essentially is getting evolved from the IT. We still talk about the OT transformation being talked about the IT security experts. Now for them, network or data or compliances essentially has been something which they've been working with, and OT is something which has recently come up. Is that the right approach for them? For them, OT is an extension. The other side is the actual asset users. People who are working on these industrial control systems, they are essentially core engineering and instrumentation individuals, experts. For them, the availability, keeping the lights on is the most important thing. Operations first. Cyber is something which now people have started talking about, but then if you look at the more than 70% of the asset users, cybersecurity is still secondary. And the third important perspective is all of us, cybersecurity experts. We have to bridge this gap between the industrial control asset users and the cybersecurity requirements. Now, the perspective that I'm trying to build here is the balanced priorities. How do we drive resilience? We know that the risks are real. We have to start talking about the sectors which are heavily reliant on OT. They are, again, struggling to find the rightly and adequately trained people who understand both OT side of it and the cyber part of it. For that, of course, there's another perspective. In the IT part of it, we can do a lot of testing, staging, and so on and so forth. Can that be done in an industrial control system? It is not possible. And for that, we have introduced something called Phygital. Phygital is it's a combination of physical plus digital. Here you see two photographs. These are two labs that we have built. One is at New Delhi International Airport, and the other one is at Hyderabad International Airport. These are not just miniaturized toys or replicas, they are the actual replicas of the ecosystem, including airports, airlines, aviation, because predominantly GMR is known for building aviation assets. Then it also talks about the city-side infrastructure, including transportation, metro, smart cars, and so on and so forth, and the far city side, which is essentially your oil and gas, your sewage treatment plant, power distribution, power generation, all from solar, thermal, and hydro-based mechanisms, powered by the actual PLCs, and the team come up with the real life cases, and the theme of this conference is also real world cases. So how do we simulate these real world cases utilizing these labs? Couple of more photographs. This is the APAC team from Kaspersky, Adrian and his team and India team. They visited and we showed them the power of KICS. I'll come to that as well. This is a hands-on demonstration for people from core engineering and instrumentation. Now for them, this becomes a tool where we can get the business contextualization, the business processes, and bridge the gap between how do they start thinking from a secured environment perspective. This is again a photograph of we hosted the APAC team. And here I'm introducing Phygital. So you'd see that small robotic dog, we call it dog E. Don't get it confused with the Dogecoin of Elon Musk. We couldn't find a better name, so we call it dog E. Now the perspective that we are trying to bring in here is not only the tech part of it, but also the touch and feel part of it. Because essentially, in the beginning, I spoke about the large physical spaces. What could be the consequences? Now those consequences have to be demonstrated in that simulation environment, but how can we get the realistic perspective? So sound, smoke, sensors, lights, displays, touch mechanics, water, fire and print are some of the perspectives that we are bringing. There's another perspective. In the previous session, we spoke about the GPS-based spoofing. So that's another perspective we are bringing, not only for the airline, but also the maritime industry, which essentially revolves around possibilities of GPS spoofing for vessels and ships. Some of the real-life examples, we already have more than 700 use cases built on our model. More than 60 cases which we have developed along with Kaspersky on the model, where we talk about the business perspective. Okay, if there's an airline operator, if there's an airport user, if there's a power sector user, what could be those requirements? So some of these I've listed here. And then see it in action. Again, like I said, less talking, less text, and more visualization. See it in action.
One day, PLC troubleshooting was needed at the power plant. A remote vendor connected through AnyDesk, unaware he had already been compromised. Earlier, he'd received a phishing email disguised as a Siemens update. Trusting it, he clicked the link and downloaded a malicious payload. As soon as it ran, a reverse connection opened, giving attackers a hidden backdoor and putting the plant's operations at risk. Silently, the attacker planted a keylogger, recording every keystroke and harvesting credentials to deepen their access. The vendor linked into the plant through AnyDesk, launching his troubleshooting session. Inside, he opened the PLC's web console, combing through system logs for signs of irregular activity. His focus then shifted to the SCADA interface, where live process operations unfolded on screen. By cross-checking the logs with real-time data, he sought the root cause of the disruption and the path to restoring stability. He logged in during non-working hours, installed the payload on the plant machine, and established a reverse connection. He then executed a malicious script that targeted the PLCs directly, causing critical systems to fail one by one. The plant was forced into an abrupt and hazardous shutdown, halting operations and putting both equipment and personnel safety at immediate risk. Every second of downtime magnified the potential damage, leaving the facility vulnerable until control could be regained. The attacker brought the water treatment plant to its knees, cutting off essential flow. The disruption rippled to the turbines, plunging the entire city into darkness. The recent incident was detected by Kaspersky's KICS network tool, deployed on the Phygital model. The tool flagged a command that opened a secure channel on port 4840, the same port targeted during the DOS attack. Port 4840 is used for OPC UA communication between the PLC and the SCADA system. You can view the source and destination IPs along with port details. Scrolling further, the tool provides timestamps, MITRE TTPs, and insights into possible causes and system impacts. Additionally, it offers recommended remediation steps to guide an effective incident response.
Great. So perspective of showing this scene action was to talk about when we talk to the asset owners, we typically show them slides. We typically show them simulations on screen. What if we replace it with the live model? We have a small model arranged by Kaspersky, but I welcome you all to come and visit Delhi. If not possible, happy to have a virtual call with all of you, especially people working on the industrial control systems, people working on the OT part of it. We have multiple cybersecurity related use cases built. But then on top of it, the business contextualization. We saw Simatic S7 series by Siemens, But then essentially, if that same PLC is being used in a cement manufacturing plant, the business contextualization, the kind of policies have to be different. But then when it is used in my baggage handling system at Delhi International Airport, the business perspective has to be different. That is where we come in. That is where we come in. Why? Because we are not only the cybersecurity experts, but we also have the whole army of the people who know how the business runs, how the business needs, what the business needs. So that's the combination which we are trying to propose to the global markets. The Gramax and Kaspersky partnership. Essentially, three perspectives. Again, I'll give the training demos are R&Ds. We are closely working with some of the national agencies and some global agencies. We heard about the aviation in the previous discussion. At GMR, we have developed and implemented something called Aviation Cybersecurity Framework, which does not only revolve around the airports, but also the entire supply chain or the value chain of the aviation, which includes airlines, which includes cargo, which includes maintenance, repairing, and overhauling. GMR has a strong GMR Aviation Academy, which focuses on aviation, building the whole aviation ecosystem. But then on top of this, Gramax is building the OT cybersecurity capability, of course, with partnerships of the technology OEMs. And this is something which we want to build further. KICS has deep industry control, OT threat intelligence, and that is something which we have already integrated with Delhi International Airport. That is something which has helped out and simulating the real world attacks. The combined value gives us the immersive visibility of real world attacks. Now, the point is when we are showing slides, when we are showing simulated visualization of certain attacks and so on and so forth, the asset users may not be able to correlate. But when you show, okay, if I'm at the baggage checking counter and my bag goes inside, but then the whole baggage handling system, which is again regulated by the regulators in every country, what if that particular machine gets disrupted? There could be chaos, there could be possibility of huge disruption, business disruption. We have seen this. I think one of the airports earlier this year saw a fire, and because of that, the 3-day operations impacted. Of course, there are chatters, this could have happened because of the cyber attacks, but then deeper investigations are required. So essentially, it's a joint R&D initiative. It's an R&D testbed for the next generation defensives. The road ahead, the threats are real, but readiness is uneven. One industry may be way ahead in terms of thinking about their cybersecurity, thinking about secure by design. But at the other side, when we talk about some of the industries which are still not even thinking about cybersecurity, but they are equally critical for the nation and equally impactful if in case something goes wrong because of cyber attacks. How do we bring them to that level? KICS plus Phygital enables the whole ecosystem. And that's my takeaway for this small presentation. Happy to have any conversation during the break. I'll be here the whole evening. Name is Himananshu Sharma, and I am the CTO for Gramax. Thank you so much.